Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Small Print Podcast with your host, Elise, and I blog at roulettereader.wordpress.com.
I'm Dawn, and I blog at bangbangbookblog.com.
And today we are going to be discussing Goodbye Days by Jeff Zentner, which is published on March 7th, 2017.
So the overview of this book is about Carver, and he's made a mistake. He's texted his friends knowing that they were driving. As a result, all of his friends die in a car crash, and Carver may face criminal charges.
Yeah, just straight off the bat, I guess I was surprised that, I don't know, I haven't really read any books about teens dying while texting or, exploring the issue of texting and driving. I will also say I don't read a lot of YA contemporary fiction. Dawn reads far more than I do. So I will be kind of getting a different opinion, I think, from both of us on that a little bit. So I'll let you start.
All right, so we're going to start with our don't likes.
Yes.
One of the thing that, and none of this, well, actually, this one did not impact my rating, so it didn't make it, go down or anything, but I feel like some of the humor didn't quite land for me, and it wasn't the farting thing. I thought that was actually kind of funny. And he explains why he does it. It's not because he's immature, it's because he's doing it for a social experiment. The dialogue between him and his friends, what do you say, assigning cat and dog to...
Yeah, they, at one point in the conversation, they decide to assign all animals, whether they're a cat or a dog. So, would a squirrel be a cat or would a squirrel be a dog? But I don't know. I caught myself being like, oh, a squirrel would totally be a dog. But I get what I don't know. I'll let you finish your point.
Well, I mean, they have similar dialogue throughout the book, and I know this is their friendship, and that's fine. That didn't bother me. It's just the actual words on the page were meant to be funny, and I just didn't laugh.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was enough for me to notice it. It was only one time where I laughed out loud at the very end. I can't remember what the joke was. I thought that Carver's inner voice was funny. He was a funny person, but the dialogue between him and his friends, I didn't get it.
That's actually one of my likes.
Okay.
I mean, I found myself laughing, just chuckling to myself at the random things that they would say because my friends and I were also extremely random. When you read their dialogue, the cat and dog thing, and then the thing right at the end where all salads have mayo. It's where do you come up with this?
Yeah,
I liked it. However, at the
funny.
same time, I will say that in general, I didn't feel like the dialogue was genuine to how teens necessarily discuss. I am around teens a lot, and I don't really hear them talk this way, so that was something, it did become a little distracting, but I did enjoy it at the same time. I was laughing, some of the jokes landed, and you're right, Carver does have a very unique, enjoyable inner voice, which is great. I mean, he's the main character. Hopefully, you enjoy going on the journey with him. Go ahead.
Now that you say that, what I'm noticing is when he is talking about his dialogue between his friends, it is kind of this nonsense. It's kind of like a Seinfeld episode where it makes no sense. There's no real story. It's just them talking about nonsense. But when he's doing his goodbye days and he's telling his dead friends' parents about something important that they didn't know, it seemed like they did have real, genuine conversations.
Definitely.
But so I think as the reader, we're getting both, which I think teens probably do both.
Yeah. I don't know. No, yeah, that's a really good point. I'll get to that. We'll get to that when we talk about the specific goodbye days. Another dislike that I had, I don't know, that was mostly it. I thought that they were just disingenuous in some of their... Well, no, okay. I didn't feel like we got to know the character of Eli very much, as much as the other two. I left the book kind of really knowing who Blade was, really knowing who Blake is, really knowing...
He's Blade.
No, there's Blake, and then there's Blade. Blade is Carver, but it's his nickname, and he's sometimes referred to as Blade. Sorry. Carver. We'll call him that so we don't get confused. Carver and Blake, you end up really kind of getting to know who they are. Even like Mars, Thurgood.
Oh, see, I felt like I didn't. Yeah, both of them. I would say Eli and Mars, not so much.
See, I thought Mars, which we can talk about more in their Goodbye Days because it's kind of a spoiler, but Mars,
Yeah.
I can't say that because it's a spoiler.
Yeah.
But Eli, when you do get to know Eli with Jessamyn's chapters and her character, but I didn't like that. I didn't like that it was so far removed from like Blake didn't really have that, Mars didn't really have that. We're seeing Eli through yet another person's perspective. That kind of bugged me a little bit. I don't think that was intentional or anything. It was just how he decided to write his character.
It might be intentional though.
Why do you think?
Because I feel like Zentner's a type of writer who doesn't do things unintentional. I think he thinks about it.
But why Eli is what I mean.
Maybe just because he's the one with the girlfriend. We don't get his perspective through Adair.
Yeah, we don't at all. And when you meet his family, they're like so cold and like they're like waspy types. Like they don't talk about emotion. Like they're really uncomfortable to be around. They're just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me necessarily. Yeah. I don't even want to include this in the dislike, but it was just something I noticed.
Yeah. I guess him and while we're staying on that, him and Mars kind of got the shorter end of the stick. It may be just because Blake had a better backstory than Eli and Mars, because he did have a much
he had a more traumatic kind of upbringing, if you will.
Yeah. One thing that bothered me, and once again, this did not like make my rating go low or anything, but it just kind of bothered me a little bit. As soon as Mars got on the page, I knew immediately that he was black because of his dialect, his
just
slang.
The way he talked.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm pretty sure Nashville is a fairly diverse city, but his father is a judge, and all of his friends are white. It's just...
And his dad makes a point to tell Carver, I pushed him so that he would act a certain way, because if he didn't, it wouldn't matter how you've been raised so far. They would only see one thing about you. So that, I mean, I don't know, maybe that was... I don't know. But I did notice. I noticed it, and it was distracting. When I was like, oh, Mars is a really cool name. And then Zentner like casually slips it in that his first name is actually Thurgood. And then Carver's like, Mars. He liked to go by Mars. I'm like, oh, I see what's happening here. It was just like, it was almost like he wanted to make this character African American, but he didn't want to call any more attention to that fact. But that's a huge part of who he is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was distracted by that.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure he did not mean this intentionally. But there is this kind of a stereotype, and it bothers me, that if you look at commercials and there's a black woman in the commercial, not so much anymore because I think people have called it out, but the black woman is always sassy. Even if she's promoting a cleaning, floor cleanser, she's, what you doing, girl? It's always this sass, and it's like, no, it's a stereotype. So instead of saying that black people are ghetto, we'll just call her sassy. No. So I just felt like, why did Mars have to call people bruh and hey bro? And it's just like, oh. Once again, not so much to lower my rating, but it did kind of bother me a little bit.
Indeed. Any more dislikes?
Well, the thing that made me lower the rating, so I ended up giving it a 4. I enjoyed The Serpent King a lot, very much actually, and one thing that made Serpent King stand out is because you read a lot of YA and you don't get the rural South, Tennessee, and you also don't have a lot of faith in religion in books that are not preachy. So the fact that he did that first in The Serpent King and it reappears again in Goodbye Days, it's not new anymore. It's done well, and I liked it, but that's one thing that set The Serpent King apart, whereas now this is just, it's doing it again. And also the grief aspect, I've I wouldn't say that I am an aficionado on grief books, but I've read enough to see that it's kind of a consistent theme as to how they deal with grief, and it's a bit repetitive. It's not much you can do with grief. You can the stuff surrounding it you can make different, which is what he did.
Yeah.
But the actual way people deal with grief is pretty
straightforward.
The same in all books. So that is the reason why I gave it a 4, because of the grief part.
Yeah,
it's
that
just
makes
not
sense.
New. It just wasn't new to me.
Yeah, maybe that's his thing. You know, maybe he's the author that wants to kind of pull these themes of like religion and tradition and maybe grief back into the YA conversation.
And that's good, but just because the Serpent King, it came out of nowhere, and you're like, oh, he's putting religion as a good thing, and this kid prays, and it's a good thing, because a lot of kids do pray, and you know, they want to see themselves in a book too, and so it just stood out in the Serpent King, and now it's kind of expected, so it's just not special anymore.
As a teen, you shouldn't have to read Christian fiction to find like religion in books. Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't have any more dislikes.
Okay. So I gave my rating already.
I gave it a 4 as well.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so let's go into what we liked.
Okay. I guess I'll just start this off. I loved the Goodbye Day portions. They were very unique, and I loved that they grew incrementally. He does 3. They grew incrementally more intense and difficult and horrible, quite frankly. But I liked that.
Yeah.
I liked that Zentner doesn't make Carver pay for his consequences, the consequences of his actions. Like, yeah, this could be a fluffy, lighthearted, like, oh, it's not your fault, honey, you didn't do anything wrong. Well, he was kind of involved. He didn't necessarily cause their deaths. I think that's a little bit far to say. You can't really even, well.
Okay, so
go ahead.
I feel like that's a different topic. So let's stay with the Goodbye Days part.
Yeah, so the first Goodbye Days, Carver goes off to see Nana Betsy, which I loved that name. Nana Betsy. She is Blake's grandmother, and we learn that Blake lives with his grandmother. He does have a mother, but she is just totally not. Yeah,
spoiler.
Oh, sorry.
We'll just keep that. Because
I totally forgot about that. Are we doing a spoiler edition?
Maybe we can go into it more for 5 minutes.
Okay. Whatever. Well, we learn Blake's rather difficult backstory. I won't say the other thing I was going to say, too, because that's a huge spoiler. Anyway, suffice it to say, we learn a lot about Blake and his relationship to his grandma, and then subsequently to Carver. And it was just really cool. Like, the little things that made each character themselves. You know, like the whole fishing and Waffle House and blah, blah, blah. Now, I don't know how much to say, because it's like... But, well, I'll tie in what we were previously talking about, is that I first noticed that kind of religion theme in Nana Betsy's Goodbye Days, because she kind of talks with Carver about it, like, do you believe in heaven? Like, what do you think happens? And I like that Carver's not really sure. She's definitely sure. She tells him exactly what she believes, but she's not like, you're wrong if you don't believe this as well. They have a discussion about it. And even after Carver kind of drops this bomb about who Blake really is, she's very open and receptive and doesn't sugarcoat her own religion and is still willing to entertain a dialogue. I don't know. I liked it. It was good.
Yeah.
And then that happens in each subsequent Goodbye Day. Every group that he hangs out with has somewhat of a discussion about like how we deal with grief. Because oftentimes grief and death and things like that force us to contemplate some of these things that we really don't kind of think about on our daily basis. Like, is there an afterlife? So I like that Zentner didn't shy away from that.
They're all, like you said, they're all kind of different. We get this grandma who's very,
loving.
Yeah, very loving. She doesn't blame Carver. And then you get Eli's parents who they have a different religious belief, and their emotion is anger. Not necessarily blaming, but they're angry.
Yeah.
And then you have Mars's dad who blames.
Oh, yeah.
And so you get 3 different perspectives of how people deal with grief, so that's good, and 3 different experiences with their parents. And another thing about the Goodbye Days, what I liked about this book is Carver is telling their parents something that they don't know about them. But at the same time, Carver does not talk to his own parents. His sister keeps telling him, you need to confide in the parents. And he's like, no, I don't want to. Which is on purpose. And at the very end, we don't actually hear the conversation with him and his parents, but it is implied that he does talk to them. So I think it's a good message for the kiddies that, you know, I need to open up more to my parents. As a teen, my mom didn't know anything about me. I don't think she knows about me now. You know, it's like, you don't really know who I am.
Yeah, my mom knows a lot more about me now than she did as a teen. I did not want to talk to my mom.
Yeah, and I think that's most teens. They're not going to say everything about who they are to their parent. And at the same time, your parents are not getting to know who you really are. You
are, yeah.
And if you die, they don't really know who you are. Yep. So I thought that was a good little
that's so true. Theme. I love that he acknowledges that.
Yeah. I also liked these kids had parents, because a lot of times in YA teens don't have parents.
It's like just them dealing with grief with their friends, or
parents don't exist, or they're always really shitty. And I said this in my blog post. I was on the Best Fiction for Young Adults last year, and we picked the top 10 books of the year, and we discussed 120 books, and there was a running joke that every dad was horrible.
Oh.
Every dad in every book that had a dad was horrible, until we discussed the very last book, which is Zentner, because his name starts with Z. That was the only book with a good dad. Lydia's dad was great. Of course, Dill's dad was horrible, but Lydia had a really good dad. So in this book, there are some good dads and bad dads. Carver's dad's pretty good. Mars's dad, he loves his son. He has
very good intentions.
Showing it, yeah.
He provides for him.
Yeah. So I like that we got to see parents and good dads and horrible parents and great parents, and which you don't get to see a lot.
Yeah, that's true. I was reading, and I was noticing the, for lack of a better phrase, I guess, the diverse nature of each of the families. You know, both from socioeconomic status to how they engage with their children. It's like, it was very interesting. I found that intriguing.
I think you're next with the likes.
Well, this is the thing. I can't talk too much about the Goodbye Days because I wrote down a lot of, spoily bits. So, why don't you...
Okay.
And I'll pop in if I have something to add, but then we can move to the, brief spoiler edition.
Okay. So, this book, obviously, it's about texting and driving. And I kept waiting for them to focus on Mars, who was the actual teen who was driving the car, who texted going 70 miles an hour. So that would be the obvious lay of blame. But they don't really talk about that.
Kind of. All.
Adair makes a really good point.
Thurgood's dad brings it up.
Yeah, he does, but it's not...
It's not a major discussion of the book.
Yeah. So I think some people will find that...
odd.
Yeah.
That's true.
But that's not what the book is about. It's really about him texting knowingly. And this is something that we do all the time. Because I do it all the time. And I've been in the car with you where you receive a text. And that person probably knows you're driving. But at one time we're on the highway and you're like, can you answer this text for me? You expect the person who's driving to be responsible and wait till they're at a stoplight or call you. You know... Yeah. Even though you know they're driving, when we were driving to go meet a friend, and she knows we're on our way, and she texts us anyway.
Yeah.
So is it her fault that we die because she texted?
Definitely not. Because at the end of the day, I'm the one who picks it up or chooses to respond or whatever. And I like that Thurgood's dad, Mars' dad, acknowledges that. Because that had never occurred to me. I don't know why. I'm reading this, I'm like, oh, Carver's involved. That's definitely a little fishy. But then... that's why I found it interesting that on certain memories, he begins by saying, Mars is driving. Did you notice that?
Mm-mm.
Over and over again.
I didn't notice that.
And I'm like, he wants the reader to remember and be reminded of that, I felt like. Especially at the end, Mars is driving. So that's a good point.
So, I like that he did bring it up with Adair. She brings it up one time, and then at the very end his dad brings it up, but it is really about something that we do all the time. And I was yelling at this book it's not his fault. Mars shouldn't have answered the text. Why aren't you talking about it? And I'm like, oh well, that's kind of not the point of the book.
Yeah, he does cover that base though.
He does cover
briefly,
it.
But yeah.
Let's talk about Jessamine and Carver's relationship. So it's kind of happening with Biden's son. Have you been hearing about that?
No.
So his son died.
Yeah.
So his younger son is now dating his dead brother's wife.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So timely topic.
Indeed.
So Carver has no friends because they've all been killed. So he and Eli's girlfriend have decided to just become friends. And it's a little bit of a spoiler. I won't really go into it, but I like the relationship between the two of them, and I like how it was written. I won't go into it because it's a spoiler.
Well,
it's a spoiler.
Yeah. Dang it. I guess. Yeah, I liked her character. I was telling Dawn before we started the podcast that I did not read Serpent King, but I attended the teen book discussion that talked about it, and Lydia was brought up, and I like how Zentner? I'm sorry, Jeff Zentner, kind of writes these punchy female characters that don't trip over into like the manic pixie dream girl area. I think Jessamine was like just bordering because she was like kind of pulling him out of some of that grief a little bit, but that was not her intention, I don't think. But like I liked her synesthesia. I thought that was really cool. Synesthesia is when you can like visibly see a color associated with either a thought or physically something. I don't know if I explained that very well, but whatever. You can Google it. And I liked it. I thought it added some interesting character development to her story, but the whole thing that happened during Eli's chapter regarding her was super heartbreaking. I was like, oh, yeah, that's tough. And she's not, I don't know if that's a spoiler.
Probably is if you have to ask. It is.
Who would have thought there'd be so many spoilers with a contemporary novel? Well, things don't exactly go how Carver wants them to go, I guess is how I'll say at first. With her.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
But she's a cool character.
Yeah.
And it makes sense.
Yeah.
You both understand exactly where each other is at that moment. Like, nobody knows exactly how he feels except her, because she also lost that person that she loved very much. I mean, obviously the parents do, but it's different. It's your child. It's not your friend. So, yeah. It makes sense.
The only other thing that I have that I liked is I like that we get some Southern culture.
Yes.
Through the food and through their customs and.
Yes. I was reading this last night. I'm like, oh my god, the mac and cheese that's baked on the top, and he meant like all these food that he mentions. I'm like, I want it.
I liked how, and I'm not from the South. I am from Illinois. I've lived here my whole life.
Same.
But my great aunt she's from Missouri. She used to fry chicken like his mom fried chicken. His grandma, Blake's grandma fried chicken, and he explained the process,
with the Crisco.
Yes, the Crisco, and you dredged it in the thing, and you put it in the thing. I don't feel like people do that anymore. Do people even use Crisco anymore? It's so bad for you. Everyone's into olive oil.
Used it to fry. She would use it in baking.
It's a Southern thing and like a Black family thing. Crisco is like a staple. But I like that he kind of described the food and the cornbread and the cast iron
and the lemon chess pie. Never heard of that. I had to Google it. I was like, what the hell is a chess pie? Yeah, it's like some kind of custardy cake type thing. It looked tasty. I wanted some. But I don't know why it's called chess pie. But yeah, I thought that was really cool too. Yeah. He pulls some of that culture in. And of course they go to a Waffle House, which we don't have up here.
They're in Chicago, but...
Very recently.
I know.
It's not considered a Midwest thing. It's considered a South thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, is the ending a spoiler? Yeah. I just want to say that I think that ending...
No, I don't think so.
...is left to the interpretation of the reader.
Well... I don't know if I would have thought anything different than what I thought if you had not said something. When I read it, I just thought it was another memory that popped into his head, and then I'm thinking, wait, did he die with them? Are they all together? I don't think that's the case. I don't think this is one of those books.
No.
Yeah.
But as I was reading it, I was like, you know what? If he pulls a switcheroo and was like, this was all his story that he wrote, because that happens in a book.
That's true.
that I had to read, where it was his story, and you don't know if it really happened or not. But I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I don't feel like that was strongly enough implied to think anything other than it was just, it's like you said, the therapist kept having him reimagine different scenarios of how this could have turned out, and I thought that was just what he was doing. Like, what if they hadn't died and we were all getting ready to go to college or like finish out? Weren't they juniors and they were going to finish their senior year? Okay, I couldn't remember. That was just him kind of imagining this is what we would be doing today. We'd be having some inane conversation about salads. Just him remembering their memory.
I liked did you see Superbad?
Only once, so I don't even remember.
So
I hated it.
Oh no, Superbad is one of my favorite movies of all time. That movie is great.
You shock me.
Oh, that's so great. And I love it when the two guys, they're having a sleepover, and he's angry at him because he's going to they're not going to college together, and they're best friends. And so they're in the sleeping bag, and he's like, "I love you." He's like, "You're my friend, and I love you." Is that weird? No, hug me. Like,
yeah, that's like exactly what happens.
Friends, and they're hugging in their boys, and it's okay. And
at first I was almost like, is he trying to think of the fact, like, they did crazy things in the car that could have also killed them? Because, like, they were hugging and it wasn't implied if they had stopped the car yet, or if they were all just literally hugging while, again, Mars is driving the car.
No, I think they dropped him off.
At the time, I think they had stopped, when I reread it again. But when I first read it, I was like, oh. But it does say, Mars is driving.
Yeah. All right.
Well, let's go into our spoiler bit.
Yeah, overall,
a solid book.
Yeah.
Yep. For sure.
Liked it. Mm-hmm. Our next book is going to be The Upside of the Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. And so if you are not going to join us for the spoiler edition, we'll catch you next time. Everybody else, it's not a lot. It's just a couple
really
things.
Not. Yeah. I just didn't feel like we could properly talk about the Goodbye Days without really getting into detail. So that's what I focused on. Let's go back to Blake.
Yeah.
I liked his the best. I felt like we left, and I guess I could have said this in my dislike. I didn't get as close to the other two. I kind of mentioned Eli, but you really don't leave as much of a sense. But anyway, with Blake, I like that his grandma is also like really tied to tradition, and I think that the cornbread and the chicken and the pie all kind of ties into that too. Like, tradition is how she's gonna remember Blake because of these things that they did, and she wants to include his best friend on that. Let's talk about Blake's past.
Yeah, of course we didn't see that coming.
I did not. I did not at all.
I knew his mom was probably a crackhead or something because they kind of mentioned it before. I didn't know it was that. Oh, it was terrible. For a kid to have such an optimistic life. His grandma is great.
Yes, and I did say that, like, his past paves the way for his future in comedy. Like, he's able to just, I've seen some things, and I choose to laugh, I choose to put dignity aside because I was pretty much brought into this world without any, is kind of how he thinks about that, and I liked that. I thought he was a really mature character.
I like that he called Carver on his way he talked to his parents. He kind of talked to him really shitty. He's like, you have great parents, why would you? And I feel like, that has happened to me as a kid, where I'm like, wow, she's really disrespectful, but I never said anything.
Well,
I just feel
I've
like
had both happen, where, like, I witnessed something that I didn't find, like, you shouldn't be talking like that to your parent or whoever, and then I've had people call me out on certain things I do, because I went, as all teens do, you go through this time where you just really are not interested in being around your parents at all, but, I've been on the receiving end of both sides of that, and that was really, like, that was a intimate scene.
I feel like that's Zentner's way of telling teens who are reading this book, don't be shitty to your parents. They're great. You're lucky you have parents.
Right. If you're reading this book and you have parents, you are lucky. What else did I... Yeah, so we also learned that Blake is gay. I didn't see that coming either. There really wasn't any glaring clues, I guess, and that's probably normal. Mm-hmm. Zentner probably was like, what is a gay character? No, I'm just kidding. He's not. What did you think about all that?
I like that he ended up telling his grandmother, even though he wasn't quite sure what her reaction was going to be, because I too was like, ooh.
Yeah.
She's a churchgoer.
They had just talked about religion.
Mm-hmm. And she accepted it.
And I like that she says, like, I definitely, like, our religion definitely is not accepting of that lifestyle or something along that line, but she has the choice to be. Like, she, as a human being, has the choice to be loving and respectful of her grandson. And she mentioned something about how she never knew. Never mind. I can't think of that. But I liked it. And the scene when they call his actual mom.
Yeah. And he kind of took the brunt end of that.
It kind of, I don't know why, but it kind of reminded me of Adam from Maggie Stiefvater's series, The Raven Boys.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't tell you why. I mean, they
okay.
lived in trailers as well, and the difficult parent relationship. But yeah, it was sad to hear the mom turn around on just whoever was on the other end of the phone, because it didn't matter. It didn't matter if it was him or the grandma. She said, you didn't take care of him. You didn't protect him. And I think she was obviously just like, that was her.
Mm-hmm.
She did that, not them. And I like that that Carver took it for grandma. Because the grandma already knew. She's like, that's why I can't do it for myself. That was emotional. Any more about Blake?
No.
Let's move to Eli. That scene in the bathroom with the dad.
Yeah, that was...
I did not see that coming. I mean, like, no. You could tell that the family was a little bit more, not hostile, but they were definitely a little bit less kind about the whole thing. But you got the sense that they were already those kinds of people anyway. Like, he says that whenever you would go over to their house, you call them by their first name. Even Eli calls his parents by his first name. Like, they're not cuddly people, is what he says. But it was uncomfortable.
Yes.
The arguing, and then they're like, oh, by the way, we're getting a divorce. Didn't have anything to do with the death, but we're getting a divorce. We're like, sure. But he basically tells Carver, I don't want to see you dating my dead son girlfriend. Do you think he had a right to say that?
I don't know if I would say he had a right. He has a right to feel that way. I don't know if he should have said it. It's none of his business.
Yeah.
But when you're in that state, I mean, he's like, I don't blame you, but...
But he kind of does.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Yeah.
There wasn't much to go on with Eli.
With Eli, nothing. I literally wrote down two things. I was like, his parents come right out with the slight blame, and it's a completely different atmosphere from Blake's, which I was like, okay, I see what he's doing here. And then when you get the sense that Thurgood's dad is the judge, you're like, ooh, shit's about to go down. Let's talk about him. Okay. His goodbye day was literal punishment. That's what I wrote down. Like, ooh, he makes him run 7 miles. 7 for someone who does not run on a daily basis is basically death. That I enjoyed. That was kind of funny, but it wasn't. But it was. And then the church scene.
I was expecting him to kind of forgive him, because that's what you kind of do in church. You forgive people. And I was not expecting the end of chapter. I was like, okay.
I saw the scene as he didn't, like, fail in the justice arena, so the church was, like, his last stand, the last place where he could stand as an authority figure and share his opinion about what happened.
Okay.
And he wanted Carver there because Carver was never really in the courthouse very much. That's how I saw it. He's like, if I couldn't get you there, you're going to hear how I feel about you here. That, I could not even imagine having someone do that to me. That would be the utter humiliation of, like, just, like, even though no one in the room really knows who you are and what's happening, just knowing that someone really, like, hates you that much or has so much emotion towards you that's negative, that was emotional to read. That was tough.
I know he does realize that Mars has a very big part to do with the death of those kids. And I don't know if he was just projecting it onto Carver. And he does in the end kind of say, my son would have been persecuted. But he doesn't explicitly say because he was driving. He kind of made it seem like because he was black. Did you get that impression?
No, I didn't.
No? Okay.
No, he does pull that into the conversation, but he only did it in as much as to explain why he was so hard on him. Well, now that I think about it, I don't know. I didn't get it at first. I didn't get it until you just said it now. But when he comes back to the house to explain, like so Carver shows him the artwork and says, like, your son was a really talented artist. He did love you. He did respect you. Which maybe, I guess, the Judge Edwards didn't think that about Mars. Did he not think he respected him or anything? I don't think so. I didn't read it.
Well, he didn't talk to his dad. That's kind of the running theme.
Yeah. I liked that he said, tell him who I am, because I never did. I was like, oh, so sad. Where were we going with that? What did you say before?
I was just saying that he didn't seem to blame Mars for the actual driving while texting, which is, I mean, they're both crimes, but that is a bigger crime.
Yeah, no, I just think he realized that his son's memory was going to be tarnished regardless.
Okay.
Just because you can't have a discussion about the car accident without discussing what the driver was doing. And I think he realized that. He's like, this isn't going to be justice on this. This kid is going to pay for it, sure, if I get my way. But my son's name is going to be in the paper. People will remember him as the driver and not just, a victim of a car accident or something like that. I think he wanted to just have that goodness about his son that I think he knew was there. But no, I didn't think about that. So.
Well, I liked, I brought up in the non-spoiler edition of how Zentner addressed the fact that Mars was the one driving. And so when Carver and Adair are talking, she says to Carver, because he says, he was the one driving. Why are you blaming me? Because he's not here for me to yell at and blame. He's dead. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was quite honest. And it ended right there. And you were satisfied with that. And we move on. And now the focus is back on Carver and him texting his friends while he knew they were driving. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. That's all I've got in terms of
as far
spoilers.
As Jessamine and Carver.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They don't end up together. And I like that he didn't fall for that trope, because I think a lot of authors would have put them together. I thought their argument was believable. Mm-hmm. He was angry and jealous of someone who's...
I love that she was like, are you really jealous of my favorite musician? Like, really, buddy? This is where we're going to have this conversation? I thought that was funny. She's a smart kid.
Yeah. And they got over it, and now we're friends, and let's move on. And
yeah, I appreciated that Zentner explores romance during something as traumatic as grief, but that, you don't need that to survive. So yeah, good book.
Yeah,
overall solid. I'll read his other stuff.
Maybe
in the future.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for Goodbye Days, and we'll catch you next week.